Happy Wednesday, good people. I am your professor, and on the Wednesday edition of WWT Live, you would think we're talking about all things NXT, but not exactly. There's a woman who shook up the world. I'm going to tell you all about it on the Wednesday edition of WWT Live.
Yeah, now I'm going to go off. This is Shayna, the Queen of Spades, Baszler, and you're watching Women's Wrestling Talk.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
Happy Wednesday, good people. Welcome to another edition of WWT Live as part of Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet. I am your professor, Gerard Bonner, a.k.a. GB, a.k.a. I don't know what you guys are calling me today. I don't know. What I do know is there's an awful lot that has happened in the last 48 hours, particularly in the last 12, that has the entire wrestling world talking, and it's probably not about what you would imagine coming into a Wednesday show. So I'm not by myself, of course. I've got an elected official who has not given up their post, unlike another elected official that we know, who I'm hearing not only has he boycotted NXT, I hear he won't even be here today. This runs deep. It's painful, but we're not talking about him. We're talking about the councilman. Councilman Farrell's in the building. How are you, sir? Oh, wow. Wow.
We finally got justice.
Wow. This is great.
I'm doing great. Feels good to be the only elected official in WWT currently.
Oh boy. Listen, y'all beat that man up so bad. He relinquished his post. He said, "Here, I give up my shirt. I give up my office." Yeesh.
Man walked out. He went on sabbatical. I can't believe it. I'm like, for all that?
Listen, he couldn't handle it, man. He couldn't handle it. How's your Wednesday going?
My Wednesday is going great, man. Glad to be here. Like I said, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, I always look forward to 3 o'clock because I know no matter if the day is good, no matter if the day is on the opposite end, I already know here it's going to always be a good time. So
absolutely. And we are about to have a great time. Shout out to Cousin Ron in the chat. Eric in the chat, special little nobodies in the chat. And there's a lot more of you that are hanging out, not in the chat in varying places. It's great to have you here. Feel free to join us in the chat because we have a lot of great conversation. So I certainly thought when I woke up this morning, we'd be talking a lot about what happened on NXT to lead off the show. We will get to that. But there's a story that's trending that involves arguably 5 different promotions. If you're wondering, can a woman shake up the world? Beyonce was right. Women do run the world. And today, women are running the world of pro wrestling, as all of the talk right now is about this woman, Stephanie Vaquer. Now, you've heard us mention her name here on WWT Live several times before, whether it was last year when she was competing for the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship, whether it was this year when she won that title from Julia, or most recently, her title for title battle at Forbidden Door against Mercedes Moné. Well, today we woke up to news that Stephanie Vaquer has quit CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, why is this important? Well, this is important for a few reasons. Number one, of course, she had lost the New Japan Strong title to Mercedes Moné, but she actually held 2 titles in CMLL as of last night, as of this morning. She was their women's tag team champion and their women's world champion. She was scheduled to defend that title this weekend at Fantastica Mania. Needless to say, that's not going to happen. So upon this abrupt departure from Stephanie Vaquer, CMLL released a statement, and in that statement, they went on to say that she cited personal reasons for leaving both CMLL and New Japan, and she's leaving those rosters immediately. They went on to say in their statement that she's not going to compete in her scheduled match at Fantastica Mania. That's really hard to say.
That's a mouthful.
It is in San Jose, which is scheduled for Saturday. Yeah, that's 3 days from now. So they offered their apologies for this, but this puts things in very, very interesting spaces. There's a lot of talk that she is headed to WWE, that she could appear in WWE very, very soon. And meanwhile, in terms of her championship, the women's championship itself obviously is vacated and will now be decided in a triple threat match that will happen in San Jose at Fantastica Mania. If I say it slow, I can do it. It involves her original opponent, which is Uvia, and Uvia, of course, is representing CMLL. Viva Van will represent New Japan, and Willow Nightingale will represent AEW. Now, this makes a very interesting case for Willow Nightingale, who we'll talk about a little bit later. Tonight is competing in the finals of the Owen Hart tournament. She could repeat, which would send her to Wembley fighting for the world championship. Before we get into this world title match, let's get into this news, man. What are your thoughts on Stephanie Vaquer abruptly leaving CMLL and New Japan with all of the talk that she's headed to WWE?
That would seem to be the obvious choice since you've had it with everything else. Like New Japan, she's been on AEW, done CMLL. Like Stephanie has like a long record of accolades and stuff.
Well, hold on. I got one more piece to add to this puzzle, and I wish I'd saw this about 30 minutes ago. But apparently, 45 minutes ago, Shawn Michaels tweeted the following. He says, quote, "Welcome to the WWE family, Stephanie Vaquer.
Wow,
See you in Orlando."
There you go.
There's no more speculation. She left last night, and she is on her way to WWE.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, you've conquered everywhere else, and I think too, like that showing she had against Mercedes Moné, like you carried that match, not in a bad way or anything. Not saying like Mercedes Moné did anything wrong in the match, but I think this is just another great example of showing like what this tier is in the industry. Like, get your name in one of these great indie promotions like CMLL. Go over to Japan where you can get a crowd. You already got that respect. AEW sees you. Now you could be on televised events. And all of that just gets to be seen by such a great product like WWE. It just, as a career choice, why would you not want to go to the big show? And so I think it's dope. I still kind of feel away, and maybe Professor, you can help with this. Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't mean to call CMLL indie if I disrespect anybody. The not major promotion, but a major promotion indeed. But I still feel kind of a certain way of just like the abrupt leaving. And maybe I can get your opinion on that. Just, I think maybe that could have been handled a little better. Like, yo, finished out like your contract at Fantastica Mania and then go back and then get signed and stuff. But maybe I'm seeing something that may be missing.
Well, so here's what's interesting, and this is part of why this is such a big story, because it is clearly one of the biggest stories in all of Mexico. And I think, you know, for Eddie, and I know Eddie was mentioning that CMLL is not an indie, and no, they are not an indie. I think the reference there is WWE is firmly a global promotion and recognized as such. CMLL is primarily based in Mexico with partnerships in New Japan, with partnerships now with AEW, but you're likely not going to find CMLL all over the world. But what's interesting about this is it does cause you to ask yourself, number one, how ironclad are contracts in CMLL? You know, when you are, and if we just take this outside of wrestling for a second, you are thinking like most, well, I won't even say most people because things are different in some spaces, but kind of the way I'm connected, I just believe if I'm going to leave one job, I tend to turn in my 2 weeks notice and then head to the other job. There's also kind of this, unwritten rule in wrestling that you finish out your dates, you finish out your commitments, and then you proceed to what's next. Now, this is, again, I think the danger of CMLL not putting their contracts together in such a way where if you choose to leave, like with WWE, there's a non-compete if you choose to leave before your contract is up. So I think it does ask a lot of questions about CMLL. I think where this also gets interesting is because of CMLL's partnership with AEW, it's got to make a lot of people nervous because in essence, if CMLL doesn't have an ironclad kind of contract that says you need to give notice, that says that there's a non-compete, you could literally have a scenario just like what we saw. Now, I want to be clear because I know there are people, and we talked about this Wednesday, who absolutely think that WWE lives to either poach from AEW or is trying to compete with AEW. No, WWE, like any other great brand, wants the absolute best representatives possible. Yeah. They have had their eye on Stephanie Vaquer for years. And she has openly expressed her desire to ultimately end up in WWE. So I understand for her why it's like, oh, you want me? You know, I'm going. I also understand, you know, how most of us are trained to handle moving from one job to another. Now, what I also don't know is what the kind of rules are in Mexico around this, like if it's that kind of courtesy that is expected in Mexico. I'm not sure. I think back to a year, I don't know if it was 2 years ago, a year or 2 years ago, somebody will get me straight in the chat, when Dragon Lee left Mexico, and I believe he was in CMLL. When that happened, they were aware. It was announced at an event that he was leaving. They were aware, and then there was kind of a whole cool thing that was done. When Metalik left CMLL to come to WWE, because there was an awareness, they did certain things. Now, I wonder if, again, this is complicated by the partnership with AEW and AEW's very open attempt to compete with WWE. I hope you heard my language there. AEW's open attempt to compete with WWE, not the other way around. So it gets complicated. Either way, though, we don't have long to wait. We know now, as Shawn Michaels has released, that she is now signed to WWE. There is no non-compete. And I'll just say this. After what we saw at Heatwave, and after what we have seen in the women's division in NXT, in Raw, in SmackDown, with what we saw at Money in the Bank, adding Stephanie Vaquer is going to be a problem.
A big problem. And I think too, what people need to also keep remembering is, as you said, like, it is very obvious WWE is not trying to compete with AEW. That's just facts. But also think of it from, and I think Jade Cargill said the best, think from a wrestler standpoint. We all know WWE is like the NBA. You mean to tell me, like, if someone is getting offered to play with the Los Angeles Lakers and they're giving this much, like, they're not going to want to go? Like, Stephanie has been putting it out there for years, putting in the work, putting in the things like, yo, you want to be part of a worldwide brand, and not taking anything away from AEW, but you are still developing, just like Jay Cargill said. And even with some folks that's been in here for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, even like All Ego, he's been here 20 years. It's like, yo, I want to see myself at the top of the mountain. I want to be holding a belt at the showcase of the Immortals. We've all had that dream if you stepped in the ring. And so for you to get an opportunity to do it and to see them looking at you and want to be there, you also got to think of it from the wrestler of like, heck yeah. Like, I'm ready. Like, yes, y'all want me? Let's do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And given, all that's been happening with the women's division, this is incredible. And I'm just thinking, and I know somebody mentioned, Jeffrey mentioned Stephanie versus Julia. Here's the thing. That match just happened a couple of months ago, but in a New Japan ring. What do you think they're going to do in an NXT ring or a WWE ring under this Triple H era? I am just like, and let me just say this. If you have not had the privilege of seeing Stephanie Vaquer wrestle, do yourself a favor, search for her on YouTube. If you've got New Japan World, check her out there. She's incredible.
I didn't know about it till after I saw her versus Monet, and I was like, yo, who is this?
Yes.
Googled her, like you said, yo, if you haven't, you will not be disappointed. This woman, just like a lot of those stars in NXT, she has it all. And I cannot wait to see what she does when you have a global brand behind someone like this.
Absolutely. I do want to ask you this question, though, because maybe my ears weren't to the ground low enough, but it seems odd to me that AEW never seemed to try to sign her. Or did they try and she just was like, nah, I'm not really interested?
I think it's one of those things of just like it's so, I've said about this with AEW, it's pieces that they're missing that doesn't make them a full solid foundation. And I think because of the fact that you are trying to make a developmental company and use these stars that are already big to try to push it, rather than also pay attention to the ones that you could breed into something dope, like a Britt Baker, for example. You tend to start looking over a lot of these people because you're going for the big shiny thing. Like, you were so interested in Monet when you could have scooped her up and developed her. But I still say it goes back to not having a structured roster for any of these championships, not giving the championships any kind of value outside of the AEW and now the women's TBS championship, and not developing the storylines you need to develop.
Yeah.
And I think that's your biggest problem. Y'all are still not organized, and because of that, you make WWE, once again, in Professor's words, a billion-dollar corporation. Even better to say, hey, we'll worry about your merch. We're going worldwide on that as well. Money is getting better, and we can put brands behind you. It's just making it look good for all of those that already worked hard instead of having to sit in the back of catering, even to the point now where NXT is even dope enough. Like because again, we've seen, like, I don't know a lot about All Ego until I went and looked him up, and I was like, this dude could have been another person that main rostered. Like, he didn't have to. He could have main rostered. But the fact NXT has bumped it up to where you can now consider it. I could see them doing another Survivor Series where NXT is involved. We've gotten to that point with their talent again. We're back to the black and gold talent. It's so good that these people who are veterans will even take those deals because they know what it leads to, and it leads to something that where they're not waiting for AEW to get it together, get it right, get their structure down, and they're behind this. And so a lot of these folks slip through the cracks and go to a place where it got some structure. It's just like AEW is like being a freelance graphic designer, and WWE is like going to actually get a job.
Yeah. Wow.
Benefits.
Wow. That is definitely a thing. So this is going to be very interesting to watch. It'll be intriguing to see when Stephanie Vaquer ends up on our television screens, who her first opponent is, how she is presented. Yes.
Yeah. I got to ask you, though. I got to get your opinion.
Yeah.
When she goes to NXT, who do you want to see her go up against first besides Julia? I know everybody is saying that Julia. Who do you want to see her compete against?
Well, here's what's interesting. Julia, I don't think has been cleared in terms of, injury and then coming to WWE. I'm sure Cindy was in the chat. She would tell us. But what I'm pretty certain of is I don't want to see them, even though there's a temptation, I don't want to see them put her immediately against Roxanne. I don't want that to happen. We need to build to that. If for no other reason, then I don't want NXT to make the same assumptions that AEW has, which is that all of their fans are watching global wrestling, So with that being the case, I'm let me think of who I would want to see her against right now.
While you think about that too, we do have an update, so I need to pay attention to these threads. Julia is cleared. She is cleared.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that
cleared.
Earlier.
Now the question, cleared to wrestle is one thing. Cleared to show up in WWE is another thing. So I think it's interesting. There have been some comments, and the comments have been fast and furious. So I apologize if they're not getting on the screen fast enough because there's just many of them. But I mentioned the talk about why they didn't sign her, why AEW didn't sign her, and of course I'm missing the comment now. But what I do think is, and I hadn't considered this, but this is part of the challenge of these partnerships that AEW has, and arguably I'll be interested to see how WWE maneuvers their partnership with TNA, though there are some different things at work in that partnership. But with AEW, with the partnerships that they have with CMLL and New Japan, you don't want to end up in a space where you create these partnerships with the intent on signing these people, as you did with Will Ospreay, as you did with Kazuchika Okada, as you did with Jay White, such that Forbidden Door doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore. Yeah. So it's hard to partner with somebody if you know that they're actually interested in signing your talent, as opposed to, we all work together to create this. So needless to say, this is all going to be extremely interesting to see what's going on here. And I don't know how CMLL and New Japan, I mean, I know they've got the additional title match that's coming, which cares at least for the CMLL Women's World Championship. But Stephanie Vaquer and WWE, good Lord.
Man,
good Lord.
Good
Lord.
When that NXT roster goes to the main roster, it's over. All of them gonna be a problem.
Because you think about it, how good they are now, and some of them have only been wrestling 1 or 2 years. You put another 2 years behind them, they're gonna be a problem.
And with their mic skills and being able to go around the world, being in these different
it's gonna be crazy. Boza asks the question: does Stephanie take the women's championship versus Roxanne? We will see. And another question: how quickly do we see her with the North American Championship? I think this is interesting. There are places for Stephanie to go. Yeah. Whether it's the North American Championship or the NXT Women's Championship. I hope they give her a little bit of time just to let her get her feet wet in all things NXT and to allow people to get used to who she is. But yeah, I mean, there are some matches that are going to be problematic, and I can't wait to see it. It's just going to be so great.
Hurricane Tommy.
It's going to be something beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So again, a reminder, Stephanie Vaquer has left CMLL in New Japan. She is officially signed with WWE per Shawn Michaels. Her CMLL World Women's Championship, which was scheduled to be defended by her against Yuvia at Fantastica Mania this weekend, will now be decided in a triple threat. involving her, Willow Nightingale, and Viva Van, representing, ironically, New Japan, CMLL, and AEW. We'll see who comes out as champion. Now to NXT, because boy, what a show we had last night. Man.
We needed an extra 30 minutes. We needed
an
extra 30 minutes.
Listen. This is where we were hoping to be able to do the post show. We still might do one and save some of the details for that. But I want to talk about this moment here, which was a dream moment for a lot of people in NXT. Shout out to A Dazzle Black Wrestling Alliance, because I know this is all he ever wanted to see from this TNA WWE partnership. And it has happened, as Wesley last night was, attempting to tell us what his future would hold after losing the North American Championship match against Obafemi. Here comes Zachary Wentz. Here comes Trey Miguel. It is a Rascals reunion in NXT. What did this moment feel like and mean to you, Councilman?
Well, it definitely gave me an all ego type of feel, because I called this. I said, this is what Wesley needs, and he was going to need this when he was going through them things with Gallus.
Mm-hmm.
And to see this come through, man, I like it because, one, it doesn't force you to throw Wesley into the NXT title picture and then him potentially lose with everything else you got cooking up in there. It gives us a chance to have him kind of still in a rivalry card with something on the card when we have another PLE. But I think just strengthening these triple teams we're seeing, like with Gallus, I cannot wait to see them versus Rascals versus Gallus. I cannot wait to see this. This is the match I've been waiting for and want to see them get through. And just like, I cannot wait. I like they said about Julian and Stephanie, I'm gonna be like this the whole time with my head in the air. Just that's them flying. That's them flying everywhere.
Yeah,
it's good to see. You can see the genuine happiness on West. I don't know if he knew it was gonna happen or what, but it was just it's one of those feel good moments. You're just like, I'm so happy for him. It was like seeing the best friends getting put back in the same class again. And we just we both in French class. Oh, let's go.
Yes. I love what's happening with NXT right now. And the fact that, they were able to acknowledge their past. They were able to acknowledge, and I even love how they handled backstage, if it's Zachary and West, then it's MSK. If it's the three of them, then it's the Rascals. I'm like, this is great, you know. And we get the Rascals versus Gallus next week on NXT, and that's gonna be, oh gosh, it's what I also think this does is it strengthens the tag team division. I think when we were talking Monday, in terms of who else can challenge for the NXT tag team championships, can you imagine what MSK would do with Axiom and Nathan Fraser?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Lord. It would just be, ugh.
I think that may be the one we get when they move to in October. I think
man.
We get.
And I'll tell you guys, if you've not seen Trey Miguel yet,
again, go Google it and thank us later.
Exactly. Or check out TNA Plus. You need to see what the Rascals can do. And this is going to be very, very special. The TNA presence continued because we kept seeing his face flash. We kept seeing, someone say, don't say his name, all of the things. And then, of course, the show started with the four men from the main event getting involved. It looked like they were going to end up in a tag team match. Brooks Jensen injures Javon Evans, who was supposed to team with Trick Williams. And then they said his name, and he appeared. Joe Hendry goes from being the first man eliminated a couple of weeks ago in the number one contenders battle royal to being in the main event, teaming with the former NXT champion and getting the pin. Let's talk about the significance of Joe Hendry in the main event of NXT last night. What were your thoughts?
I loved it. We saw it coming. I will say, kind of like, I think they ran over time with the NXT taping this time, because you could tell it felt just a tad bit rushed and stuff for me in that main event. But I was just like, because we knew it was coming, but it kind of felt like it was like, all right, we got 5 minutes for y'all to do a spotlight. But they still delivered, though. They still delivered when it came to it. And I think it just made, they're doing this crossover with TNA and NXT right. And so it's like, yo, and again, not to make this about them or anything like that, not to make this about a competition, but AEW, if you are smart, just take note of it. Not saying they're doing it better than you, just take note. This is how you do it. This is what we saw all throughout NXT yesterday. We got to see so many TNA stars and how they're blending. Two together, how they're merging these two things together. So when we now see them start to go to TNA and do their thing, because this just let me know Worlds Collide is coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming, and it feels great. And I know we did not mention this on Monday, but Charlie Dempsey's appearance on TNA this past Thursday, which is leading to a match involving him and I think Trey Miguel this Thursday. Certainly one of the members of the Rascals. It'll happen this Thursday. So that's going to be intriguing. I will say what's so exciting about this. I know people were nervous when, the first shot that involved Jordan Grace and Roxanne did not result in Jordan winning the championship. And I told everybody, hey guys, just keep watching. Just let this do what it's going to do. Let them cook. And even when people got upset about how Joe Hendry was handled, and they were like, well, if he's the biggest star, how do you get him eliminated first? Yet, his tweet ended up being the most viewed WWE tweet of the year. It said that they did what they needed to do. And for him to go from that to the main event, you've got your most popular star in NXT next to your most popular star in TNA together. Those people went crazy last night.
Going up against the top contenders and the NXT champion?
Precisely. So this is going to be a great, great story to watch. And I love how they're not overdoing it. So it's not like every week we're going to see somebody from TNA to WWE. And what's equally different about this is this isn't, it's not like a TNA versus WWE kind of thing, because again, you had Joe Hendry teaming with Trick Williams last night and getting a win in the main event over a over an NXT guy. That's a big deal. It's a really, really big deal.
Sean Spears for that, man. Sean Spears was like, I know a lot of people try to don't give him the credit he deserved. Kind of like how they even did with his wife in the Iconics show. Like Sean Spears is someone we really need to give him his flowers, because to be able to really have the crowd sell, like he sold it well. He made them look so strong, so good. The spots that were put on, the stories that was told. I always forget the other guy's name that's like on All Ego's butt right now.
Oro Mensa.
Ora Mensa. We know that match is coming, and hopefully that's also maybe a NXT title shot. I don't think he's gonna win, but it's just all of this just shows like, we're in such good hands right now with two people that used to get us in trouble in school all the time by telling our teachers to suck it. They're just killing it right now. Like we used to do this, and y'all are just now giving us heat. This was so good, and just to see the crowd, just like I'm loving how everything is moving like a jailed unit. The crowd knows what's going on. The universe is seeing what's going on, and they're supporting everybody. Like none of these crowds have just kind of been like, "Hey, that's cool." It's this feeling that you're getting on Raw, NXT, on SmackDown. It's just like they said, wrestling is back, and you can feel love in it.
And it's so different because, again, we saw how the fans in Orlando handled whether it was the Rascals showing up with TNA chants or Joe Hendry, or even what we saw Thursday night when Charlie Dempsey came and wrecked shop, and all of a sudden we had NXT chants on TNA.
Yeah.
Like, so the wrestling fans are completely locked in. And I think this is such a beautiful space to be in, to be able to enjoy wrestling pretty much everywhere. This is absolutely awesome, and we love to see it. Now, I do want to mention one other thing, which we'll probably go more in depth on if we do an NXT post show. But what were your thoughts? And they did this really quickly, but it's something I've been asking for years. Cedric Alexander in NXT.
I like seeing it, but what I don't necessarily agree with, although I know it will still work, because I believe they're putting him in a tag team with Ashante the Adonis, because I believe they are a tag team technically with one another when they had them in SmackDown. I don't know if that is the same moving into NXT, but I think him there alone, if we just take that out, this is one of those I think that will do a great job in revitalizing his career in NXT. I think he can have the Baron Corbin effect to where it's like, yo, this is where you show it how it's done. Because I still, one of my favorite matches is him versus Mustafa Ali at WrestleMania in New Orleans for the WWE Cruiserweight title. Mm-hmm. That's still to me one of my favorite matches. They put on heat. And so for Cedric Alexander to be here with all those people, this is just going to be amazing. And I hope that they allow him to shine as the star that he is, because I think he just has a great personality, a great move set. And I think he just got lost in the shuffle during those times. And being here is going to really help him out.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I don't think they're going to continue with the tag team. I think they just kind of followed each other. But it'll be great because honestly, I want to see Ced get his flowers as a solo star, man. Like, I don't think he ever, his best showing as a solo star, I think, came during the Cruiserweight Classic. And then, he got a chance to shine a little bit in 205 Live, but nothing that really was as massive as it should have been. So this will be interesting to watch for sure. There's so many comments. And so my apologies for not getting to all of them. It's how our partnership works. Both sides are benefiting. It's like where AEW worked with TNA and TK had to benefit from it. I am a proponent that the TNA AEW partnership never worked. I don't think it ever worked. It only benefited one side, but that's just,
No, I agree. I think what's wrong with AEW too is AEW treats their programming like they're not on television. And I've said this before. Like, if this was just not a televised promotion company, you would be doing great.
Yeah.
The fact, even like how you treat your partnerships, okay, now all of it makes sense. Right. But you're not. You're on television, 3 times a week? There's a lot of components that y'all not paying attention to that you need to pay attention to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go back in time. It seems like forever ago, but Monday Night Raw was cooking as well. And I think we all got shocked by this as the go home shot from Monday Night Raw. And for those who might have missed it, we'll just set it up. It was a tag match involving Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan taking on the LWO, Zelina Vega and Rey Mysterio. Let's just say that Liv Morgan worked a few things out such that finally Dominic would get a pin for the first time ever over his dad, and he was elated. So much so until he gave her a big hug and then somehow ended up on the mat with her, and he was laying on her similarly to how she was laying on him. And then the music drops. Listen, mommy is home. Woo! Where do we go from here?
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie. I thought we were gonna have a little bit longer before she came back. I thought she probably wouldn't come back till maybe SummerSlam, and we get it for Bad Blood. But I guess it's here. this finna be it's so many layers to this because it's not only now her dealing with Dominic, it's now her also having to deal with Finn, having to deal with JD, having to now deal with Carlito, and then now what does this do with Damian Priest? Because technically Damian Priest is in charge, and is champ. Does he give the mantle back to her? Or what are we going to see? So it's so much, but I do know what I want to see is I cannot wait to see her and Liv compete, just because I love the personality side of what Liv is doing as a champion, but I really want them to show and display her wrestling talents going up with someone like Rhea Ripley and showing you why she should continue to be in the top of that division when it comes to the women and stuff, and even if she retains her title. So that's the thing I'll ask you.
Okay.
Now with mommy back, does she get her title back, or does the Liv Morgan Revenge tour keep going?
I think the linchpin in this is Dominic Mysterio. I can see a world where Dominic screws mommy. So Dominic screws mommy to go with Liv, and from there we got some decisions to make in the Judgment Day. Is Dominic still in the Judgment Day, or what? Where does Damian fall in all this? Where does Finn fall? But I think Dominic Mysterio is the linchpin to all this. I think Dominic.
I have a different theory. I have a different linchpin. I think Finn is the linchpin in all this. I think Finn is gonna make the divide between them. Him, JD, Carlito, mommy, Damian, Dominic right in the middle. You gotta make a choice. Who are you going with? Who are you gonna side with? I also see that happening. And then I think, like you say, going back into him being the second linchpin to it, and then him eventually screwing mommy. Because he's rolled with them all the time. He never really rolls with Damian like that. Damian and Rhea are the ones that are more close.
Oh boy.
But it's good to see that. It's good to see that back, man.
It's very, very good to see. Let's see. There are definitely some comments over here. Jeffrey says Dominic and Liv look like they got caught in Dom's crib. Yeah, they did.
So many spots happen.
So many. Does mommy want her title back, or is she upset that Dom has a thing? It's probably both. If they want Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood, there are two feuds, Drew and Punk and mommy and Liv. That could work. That could work. Damian broke the guy code because he didn't tell Finn and Dom that she's coming tonight. Did Damian know?
I think he did, because there was a part on Raw where he got a phone call and he was like, "Hey."
Oh yeah.
I think that was her.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and the fact Dominic been lying, because Dominic was like, "Yo, I've been talking to mommy this whole time. She's cool." And Damian said, "Like, well, I talked to her and she'd have told me something different."
Yeah. Special Nobody says Liv and Finn have something cooking. They definitely do. Yeah. Cousin says I assume that Priest takes a step back. Rhea backs his play in her absence. Let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of theories here. I think there are two versions of Judgment Day. Like Councilman is saying, Liv leads one version, mommy leads the other. Oh, that could be interesting.
That could be
very interesting. WWE Social aired a video where he smiled and said consequences. Dom, yeah, he did.
And I will say, watching all of that made me it really made me miss AJ Lee, because when she jumped and he was going down, it was just a quick second where she normally used to do that. I was like, I miss AJ Lee.
Yeah, it's a wild one. Oh, man. All right. Well, we've got more interesting news, as the WWE made a very interesting announcement, as ESPN's Joe Tessitore will be joining the WWE. He will be sitting alongside Wade Barrett and Corey Graves on SmackDown. And, of course, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee will remain on Raw. Of course, Tessitore has had a lot of experience in the play-by-play world, particularly in college football. He's done a lot there. He's also been connected to what's been going on in the WWE. He has done some interviews and the like. Now, what he will do is he will remain on ESPN and ABC in his roles relative to college football, so he won't be leaving that. He's also got experience in several world championship fights. He's also called Monday Night Football. 3 decades of broadcasting experience. What are your thoughts on Joe Tessitore coming to the WWE?
Just another good stride to what TKO is trying to do in blending this wrestling industry with the sports industry. And I think this is just another great addition. You got Pat McAfee on Raw, who is a great bridge for the stuff that he does. And now SmackDown has that as well. And, I used to listen to Joe Tessitore talk on what it was on Fight Night, the video game, all the time. So I was like, when I saw this, I was like, oh, I'm getting Joe Tessitore now? Oh my God, let's go. But then also, too, that makes me also think about what we saw on Money in the Bank. Could he be there to transition Wade Barrett out into in-ring competition?
Interesting.
There's been rumors that saying that Wade Barrett is cleared to be able to wrestle again. And what we saw with Drew and how he was responding to Punk, that may be what they start leading into.
Interesting. Very interesting. It anything is possible. And I will ask you this, because this is not the first time that the WWE has signed a previous commentator or analysis who worked in the sports world, and it didn't necessarily translate into WWE. I think back to Mike Adam Lee. Also, they had 2 guys recently. One was from baseball, I don't remember his last name. I thought his name was I don't remember his last name. I'm gonna get it wrong. But then they had the guy prior to that whose face I'm seeing. He lasted about a year, went through like WrestleMania or what have you. Do you think that this one will stick? Or Adrian V is his last name. Who was Adnan Verk, that was his name. Adnan Verk and Jimmy Smith. That's right. Thank you, Dylan, and thank you, cousin. Adnan Verk and Jimmy Smith. So, those didn't exactly pan out. And I guess when we say pan out, we mean kind of turn into a long-term type of thing. Do we think Tessitore, is around WWE for a few years, or are we talking about a year or so and then fully back in ESPN and ABC?
I want to say it probably might be the Pat McAfee route. Like, it might be an on and off type of thing when they first started before McAfee signed to say he'd fully be there. I think we may see that, because I do like Joe Tessitore as a commentator, but I also want to see, like how you just said, we're talking about with Jimmy Smith, of how does his commentating blend in with Corey Graves?
Right.
And then how does it blend in with Wade Barrett? And I think that's what really hinders on how long this guy is going to be here, because thanks to Pat McAfee, a lot of the stuff that they do in sports, he's implemented into the commentary, like even doing the play-by-plays and stuff like that. And I could see them allowing Joe Tessitore to be able to do that on SmackDown. I just, again, it is really just on how they blend the 3 of them.
Yeah.
But I'm going to play it safe and say, I think we'll see this for a year, see what's going on with it, and see how not only do they blend, how does the universe take it with the commentary as well.
Right. That is a very important aspect of it, because, again, when you're dealing with voices that people trust, you have to kind of earn that particular trust as a broadcaster. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. I definitely think, that Tessitore will certainly be the play-by-play kind of guy, which will lend itself freedom to Corey Graves, who had been taking on the role of the lead in this. But, I definitely think he shines in the space of, color and being able to do all of those things. And so with that said, speaking of color, speaking of, adding personality and the like.
Oh!
He's here, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God.
Sometimes these occurrences are rare when I've been on business time. So I figured I'd come join these guys before the end of the show.
What? I don't know what to call you. Do I call you Cedric now? Like, because you're not a mayor no more. Like, what do I?
Even though my mayor tenure is still up in limbo, I am still the Duke of Parker.
The Duke. Okay. The Duke of Parker. I love it. I love it.
There we go. The Duke is here. We like to see it. Well, any thoughts as we were just talking about the addition of Joe Tessitore to the WWE announce team?
You know what? This is interesting. I know we've tried to pull people from the booth in sports a few times before, and it's hit or miss. I think the main one is the elephant in the room is that he's not really a color commentator. It's Pat McAfee. He's kind of made himself a part of the WWE universe. We've seen other people kind of flame out when you brought the guy from the baseball, from MLB. You brought
Adnan Virk. Yep.
You brought the guy from MMA, who generally work. Tessitore is a really big name across like really the football space. So I'm interested to see how it works. But it contradicts what Triple H just said like a couple weeks ago, with that the WWE is a movie about a sport. When we keep trying to make it a sport with what you're doing. So I don't know. I just think they got to pick a side. I don't think we have to like really blend it that much because people love it for what it is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I wonder what the play here is. And when I say what the play is, obviously whenever you can get a trusted sports voice involved, it adds, legitimacy, and I put that in air quotes because we all understand it is a legitimate sport, but it certainly does that from the mainstream perspective. And I wonder, kind of how this is going to position things in the future. But this should be interesting. I don't have a start date for this, but obviously it'll happen on SmackDown, and we will be looking forward to that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the success from Money in the Bank, which just again broke all kinds of records for WWE. It became the highest grossing arena event in Canada for the WWE in history. Over the events from Thursday's comedy show through NXT Heatwave, over 45,000 fans attended. Money in the Bank became the most watched Money in the Bank of all time. Viewership up 46% over last year. Merchandise sales were way up. And last year was a record, so they've obviously done great things on that. And the retirement announcement from John Cena grabbed over 65 million views on the socials in the first 24 hours. And that made it WWE's most viewed social segment since WrestleMania 40. This is significant. Again, a big moment for Money in the Bank, and we're excited about that. We're equally excited about this wild piece of news. Bloodsport is back. Now, of course, we saw Bloodsport from Josh Barnett during Mania weekend, and that was really the first time that we started to see WWE crossing into those spaces. Shayna Baszler was a part of that, taking on Masha Slamovich, and now they will be returning. Bloodsport will take place in Brooklyn, July the 28th, and we found out that Shayna Baszler will be taking on Mayu Yamashita, which is going to be insane, guys. What do you guys think about Shayna Baszler in Bloodsport in a match like this?
I just want to see that old black and gold NXT brand Shayna. If she bring that, we finna have a day like GCW finna have them a good night. So I think this is going to be just, again, one of those great matches for them. I think it's a good partnership with WWE, bridging this together. Just, again, showing you how this works when working with other companies.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to it. I can't wait.
Said.
I'm just surprised Shayna want to jump into this type of setting again. You know, I would think that some bad memories are lingering up there, but you know, sometimes you got to get back on the horse. You know, I'm happy that she's, you know, still putting herself out there. I just want to see Shayna get a win. That's all. That's all. I just want to see her get a win.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you haven't fully hung up your blue T-shirt, and we're glad to hear that, sir. We're glad to hear that. So this ought to be fantastic. Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 11 taking place on July the 28th. You'll be able to watch that on Triller TV. So definitely check that out. Now, Bad Blood, they talked about it a lot over the weekend, but Bad Blood is officially heading to Atlanta in October. Tickets go on sale July the 19th. We've already kind of talked about this idea of potential matches that could happen there. And I know it's still, 3 months away or so, but let's just kind of put on our glasses of extrapolation, dare I say, and ask the question, who main events Bad Blood?
I mean, this is twofold because I don't know if you can really carry this that long, but if we can, cool. I think it has to be Punk and Drew. Like it has to be. If you carry it that long, it has to be. I'm assuming that. I'm just assuming that there's bigger plans for the Bloodline stuff than this pay-per-view. So I would say Punk Drew.
Okay, Councilman.
I want to say Punk Drew just because it falls over from SummerSlam. But man, the pop mommy got when she came out this past Monday, like I can see them letting them headline if they were smart. But it's SummerSlam is the real big dependent on this, like to Cedric's point. Like, what does it look like after SummerSlam? But I'm gonna stick with. I'm gonna have to agree with him. It's most likely gonna be shoot, or as Ronell said, Drew, Punk, and Seth.
I think there are some real possibilities. Punk and Drew.
I think that dilutes it too much. That Seth dilutes that. We don't need it. That reeks of Charlotte intervening in Ronda and Becky.
It would have had he not said it the way he said it this past Monday. Since you got in my business, I'm now going to interfere in your business. So I could see Seth screwing him over at SummerSlam, and then this whole Bad Blood become. But I do agree with you, though. I don't necessarily want to see it. It would be very interesting, but I do want to see Punk versus Seth by themselves before I see something like that.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get those two matches separately as opposed to a triple threat, because I think a triple threat just doesn't do it the same as as that. But I think this is going to be.
Can Shinsuke get his lick back against Seth? Can I get that before the year ends?
Who's Punk?
Shinsuke.
No, Shinsuke. I need Shinsuke to get his lick back against Seth.
He on SmackDown now, though. That's the only thing now. He back on SmackDown.
Yeah, we'll see how all of this goes. All right, this leads us into tonight. A big night tonight on Dynamite, as tonight we see the finals of the Owen Hart Foundational Tournament, the Memorial Cup. And remember, the winner on both the men's and women's side will get world title shots at Wembley Stadium for All In. And so on the men's side, we've got Bryan Danielson against Hangman Adam Page. Special guest enforcer will be Jeff Jarrett. I don't know what that's going to ultimately mean, but that will take place. On the women's side, we've got Willow Nightingale and Mariah May. In addition, we've got a Stampede Street Fight. Again, they are in Canada, as Chris Jericho takes on Samoa Joe. And I think, two legends like this are going to tear the house down tonight. A Global Glory 4-way. I don't know who came up with that name, but it's Claudio Castagnoli, Kyle Fletcher, Pac, and Ishii. That ought to be very interesting. Plus, we'll be hearing from Mercedes Moné in her double championship victory toast. The world champion, Swerve Strickland, returns, and Will Ospreay will be present as well. But I want to get your thoughts, guys, on who you think. Firstly, I guess we'll start with the women's side of things. Who do you think will win the Owen Hart Memorial Cup on the women's side?
Can I ask one thing? How many times we go celebrate Mercedes Moné with these titles? Didn't they do that last week?
Well, they were supposed to do it last week, but she did it and interrupted Britt Baker, and so I guess we got to celebrate again. I don't know.
It's not quite a celebration. It's a victory toast. It's just slightly different.
Oh, okay. Well, you know.
I imagine that makes sense.
We're just going to toast.
But
it warranted a flyer, so, you know.
But I'm going to pick Mariah May.
Mariah. Yeah. Okay.
Same here. I want to stir the pot a little bit. I need to I feel like the CEO going to be 3 belts real soon. So we gotta heat this Toni Storm stuff all the way back up.
Interesting. Okay.
What about you, Russell? Who you
personally for? I think Willow deserves a world title shot, and she deserves it at Wembley. I just think she does. She has been the steady Eddie. My God, she put over Mercedes Moné when she should have remained the TBS champion. So I think, the homegrown star deserves the right. Now, granted, the story right now between Mariah May and Toni Storm is a story that has been writing itself. And so on one hand, it seems to make sense that they would, battle at Wembley, though I'm not sure that I want to see that match. I think because I'd rather see Willow get her shot. I just think I want justice for Willow after all. I mean, think about what she's had to deal with Mercedes coming in and then getting stuck in this feud with Chris Statlander, which honestly felt forced. She deserves some sort of payoff for that, and it should be in front of 80,000 people, and she didn't get to do it last year. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with Willow and Mariah. Now, on the men's side, who do you think's going to Wembley? Bryan Danielson or Hangman Adam Page?
It's Page. The storyline's too deep, and like what they do with Bryan Danielson is so sick. How they constantly tease these title matches, and the fact he's not going to be champion. I genuinely believe that Bryan Danielson does not want to be AEW World Champion, but they're going to keep trotting him out there and teasing us like he's going to win the big one. Nope. I don't think he wants to.
I can agree with that, but it's like we saw everything Hangman did with him. So it's like, are we really gonna run this back again with all the talent that we have? And but okay, so let me ask this too, because I and maybe y'all can refresh me on this. After he fought Swerve, is he not allowed? Like, maybe I'm making this up or something. Was he not allowed to like go for the AEW title? Was there like some stipulation after their last match? Is that still lingering somewhere? No.
Nope.
Okay.
They've switched roles by the way too. Like Hangman's drinking again, psychotic. Right. Swerve is, I guess, the baby face. Hangman is not.
Right.
So this, the reason why some people might not like this, because it's like, oh, like the elite, and it's like, oh, he can go be heel with the elite now. But no, I just have a pissed off Hangman. Just
yeah,
I think you can go a lot further with that.
I think I'm gonna say Hangman just because he's developing more character wise. Like you said, they've switched it. He's done a lot of stuff. Bryan is still just glad to be in the ring. But that would be
time's ticking.
That would be such a good match between him and Swerve, though.
That's the conflict for me. Like, on one hand, and I should not say this publicly, but I mean, we're here now. I think sometimes AEW's booking can be a little too obvious. I mean, from the second when Hangman was the wild card for Jarrett, it was like, oh, okay, all right, we know where this is going. Yeah. what I think is the one thing that makes us question it is this is probably Danielson's last run and last opportunity at Wembley Stadium. So
for real.
Yeah, I mean, so to me, I'm just like, he should get that opportunity, particularly outside of a WrestleMania. I think, if AEW wanted to create a great memory, you give us Danielson in the main event there. Now, there's a part of me that wonders if what'll end up happening is we'll get Hangman and Swerve, and then we'll get Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness. Since Nigel, it looks weird to some, but if you ever listen to Nigel McGuinness's commentary,
I follow you. I know what you're talking about, but Nigel can wrestle still?
I thought so.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought he had like a career-ending injury.
I thought he's got one more match in him, from what I understand. And
really?
So I think him and Danielson in London is kind of an obvious play, though I want Danielson in the title picture. But yeah, I think we get that because I think that means a lot to Nigel. And I think it means a lot to Danielson. And if they can pull that off in Wembley, it'll be a thing.
That's heat right there. That has never crossed my mind. And I know Nigel will be really on Brian.
Nigel, he digs into him. Digs into him. So it has potential to be a thing. Here's the thing. Whether it's Danielson or Hangman, they're going to give us a great match against Swerve.
Yes.
And we'll dig into, who will Yes.
If Danielson never wins AEW World Champion, is that a bigger miss than Sting never winning the AEW World Championship? Or just the legacy of the belt itself?
I don't know that Sting not being AEW champion was a miss. And the reason why I don't think that was a miss is because we all knew he was on the latter end of his career. Given the styles of matches, the frequency of matches in AEW, we didn't want to see Sting have to go through that. Yeah. So Sting didn't need that. I think Danielson honestly needed the AEW world title to prove his worth outside of WWE. And some might think I'm wrong for saying that. I'm a massive Bryan Danielson fan, but there is absolutely no question that the height of his career happened in WWE. That Yeselmania, WrestleMania 30 was off the charts. You're not going to get much hotter than that. And his career never had a moment after that went, wow. Now he had some cool moments, winning the IC title again at 31, his comeback, which was amazing, winning the WWE championship after his comeback, and even 35, his match with Kofi was great. I feel like Danielson needs that moment outside of WWE for the move outside of WWE to fully make sense. Because if he just went to AEW just to have some bangers,
but I think that's the testament to why we say this stuff sometimes works with them, and these be the missing components that they have. Like, again, if this was a non-televised event, then this makes sense why you don't need to necessarily see him hold the title.
Sure.
But the fact that you left, and then I think Dylan said it on there to say, I left and made it public that I'm here to not win titles.
Yeah.
We know for a fact WWE not only were cool with you leaving, but even too had plans for you even after you stopped performing in the ring. You had a prominent spot in WWE behind the scenes, and you left to come to AEW. So it's not like and so you're not in the same belt as an Edge. Like, I was glad to see Edge at AEW, but we knew just because of the fact we're just glad to see Edge in the ring. You also put the title on him. It was like, oh, well, that's just icing on the cake because Edge didn't necessarily need it. I agree with you, Professor, in saying, like, Brian, you have to win this title at least once.
Mm-hmm.
We need to see you hold this championship so we know if not for some reason, let me not say it like that. AEW on a positive side continues to go for the next, let's say 20, 25 years down the road, you are a pillar in that history, not just helping build it, but also being a champion there.
Sure.
So I think he needs that belt, and I think it'd be okay for Hangman to keep developing his new personality with other stories for him, and then coming back with that whole Swerve thing, because we've already seen it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, again, all of this goes down starting tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is at the top of the next hour. So you guys make sure you check that out on AEW. All right. I think we got through pretty much everything we planned to get through tonight, which is exciting to see. Again, the breaking news, which started this show, Stephanie Vaquer has left CMLL and New Japan, and per Shawn Michaels has signed with WWE. And so we will see much more from that, I'm sure, over the coming days. All right, here's how you can find us on the social spaces. Councilman.
I just want y'all to go support my new wallpaper business that I have. We got our first one that I just want y'all to go download. It's called Goodbye to Victory. It's a wonderful wallpaper. We've already got 10,000 downloads, y'all. So I just want you to support my new venture that we have, because we got to bring some aid to Vice City. Vice City, they got no mayor. The funds have got a little depleted. You know, we as a community, we have to, be able to still help out our local wrestling talent.
Lord.
Wow. So yeah, that's how you gotta follow me at.
Wow. All right. Said.
So I got here as fast as I can, guys. I was handling business in Avis Alphas, trying to get my client a rematch for the NXT Women's title, and just seeing this Stephanie Vaquer news kind of pisses me off. We're gonna have to get physical. I'm gonna have to beat Michael's ass, because this is just gonna take Lola further down the totem pole in NXT, and I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it at all. But you can find me on Twitter at says, at CEDD_SAYS, and the hashtag Justice for Lola Vice will be trending until the day we get to the CW.
Why you think they gonna knock her down? Like, that's your number one right now, number one homegrown from your performance center. Like, when Roxy goes, that's who they gonna be looking to.
Entering another Boss Latina and just going down the totem pole. I swear to God, Hickenbottom, if Lola become a member of the LWO or Legado del Fantasma, I swear to you.
Don't you put that on her, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that on her.
Oh my goodness. That is crazy. Oh my gosh. Well, you guys can certainly find me at Bonnerfied on all the socials. You can check out my commentary and on-air work with a lot of different places. I've got a big show coming up this weekend with IWE, so you guys can check that out. Southern Honor, you can check that out. Both of those shows are on IWTV. You can check out on YouTube my work with the Nightmare Factory, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, and of course, All Caribbean Wrestling. Some great things are coming there, including I can't wait for you guys to be able to see Baja Bash. That'll be coming soon. And shout out to All Caribbean Wrestling, one of our great sponsors here at Women's Wrestling Talk. You can also check out my work with Ashe Wrestling at ashewrestling.com. Now, in terms of all things, and I've got some cool things on my socials right now. I just dropped another video today, part 2 of kind of a year in review with the first 6 months of 2024. So talking about some of the big stories, you guys can check that out. Make sure you're following us here at WWTalkPod across all of the socials. Some really great work coming out of there. Of course, on our website, www.talkpod.com. You can scan the QR code on the upper right-hand corner to get you some of the great merch from our store. And again, a big shout out to everybody in the chat. Literally record numbers today. Super excited. So shout out to you, Dylan and Jeffrey and Eric and Cousin Ron and Boza and Hassan and Cindy. Good to see you. Eric, Jeffrey, Special Little Nobodies. There were some other names, Bobby, and a few others that I may have missed. So please forgive me for missing you. But it is great to have all of you guys rocking in here. I definitely appreciate all that you are doing. Remember, we will be back as a crew on Friday. And of course, we've got other great post shows that you guys can check out. All of it is a part of Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
Thanks for joining WWT. Don't forget to like us on all social media platforms at WWTalkpod. Like and subscribe on all video and audio platforms, like yesterday, my G. And check out our website at www talkpod.com. Thanks for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.